This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey, welcome everyone. Larry Bailey here, bringing you another weekly community live event. We meet every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Today's really super special, like really special. So I'm actually in the New York Stock Exchange building up on the 6th floor. Trading is officially over, so can't get me in there for any type of insider trading stuff because trading's already over. In any event, we're here because the partner advisory board meeting just concluded. We had a full meeting yesterday. We actually had dinner on the New York Stock Exchange floor. I posted a video on that on LinkedIn if you want to check that out. Today was a full day. We actually got to meet with all of the departments, all the department heads. Met with Tim, who's president of ICE Mortgage Technology. Met with Kathy, who leads up the partner services org. And really the huge takeaway was there is an enormous amount of effort and caring and thoughtfulness towards the Encompass platform to truly benefit lenders, brokers like yourself, as well as partners like myself and so many others that dedicate their careers to helping folks like yourself. So today's topic is all about keeping more money with your workflow live from New York Stock Exchange building. Again, I'm not on the floor because I'm way above, but it's still really cool because what better place to talk about money than in a place that passes, I don't know, is it trillions of dollars or something? Through its esteemed walls. Lots of history here, by the way. If you're ever interested in learning about the New York Stock Exchange, there is an unlimited amount of history. Things I never heard of before, really interesting stuff. So if you're into history or if you're just into finding out actually how all this stuff happened here in what is now Manhattan and how the New York Stock Exchange came to be, check it out. It's worth investing the time. Speaking of time, your time is valuable. So again, today's topic is all about keeping more money with your workflow. I've got 5 specific things that I want to talk about. The chat lines are always open, so you can always post chats if you have any questions or you have any comments or suggestions. Also, if you if you have a particular problem, you want to come up on stage and ask, go ahead. I am expecting somebody to ask about enhanced conditions. If they want to go ahead and put that in the chat, I'll take that as a sign that they're here. And if not, I'll come back around in a couple minutes. So, who likes to save money? Hopefully everybody's raising their hand. And the idea is when I meet with clients and I go through projects and we talk about money and keeping money or finding money in their workflow, there's a few areas that I talk about just consistently and relentlessly, quite honestly. And so I know as an Encompass administrator, that's probably not something you're thinking about every day, unless you're one of those Encompass administrator leaders who had their budgets cut, or if you constantly go and ask for something and the company's like, we don't have the budget for you. So that's something that is near and dear to my heart, is helping companies find the money, especially if you're your place finding it. Now, back when I worked with Success Mortgage Partners, they actually had a monthly, I'll call it a scavenger hunt, but basically a monthly money hunt. And it was incredible. If anybody knows anybody from Success Mortgage Partners, or if anybody's on here from there, you can speak up. But basically, there was a prize. I think it was a piggy bank. Think pig. So they would actually win this pig. It was a pride thing because they would either find money that they could save, or they would unwind services that they no longer need, or they would renegotiate contracts to get lower prices. And this whole thing was all about for the better of the company. Because again, if the company fails, we all lose. Right? And so as an administrator, one of the first places that I really talk about, and I put a tease, I don't know if anybody has subscribed to our YouTube channel yet. If you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe. You can find it under Mastering Encompass. And the reason why I say that is because I push out, we're doing like 3 or 4 long videos a week on there, and we're pushing out, I don't know, like 8 to 10 to 12 shorts a week. And it's really just snippets of information. And it's meant to, I put it out there because the community gets a lot of stuff, and I don't want to overwhelm the community with the stuff that we're pushing. But there's so much information. And by the way, with the Partner Advisory Board, we just got through planning into 2025. And there's a lot of great stuff I'm going to talk to you about. So I definitely want you to get this information, both here in the community as well as what we can publicly share, because all of this is going to affect you, and it's going to affect your bottom line. So one of the first things I talk about is waiting, right? And so if your Encompass time it takes you to open up a loan file is greater than 3 seconds, you're probably an average customer. That's probably an average situation, but it doesn't have to be. It's not that way out of the box, by the way. And that was that short post, that was that short video I did where I basically said, if your Encompass is if your loan file is taking longer than 3 seconds, it's probably something you're doing. Well, the reality is what you're doing is probably customizing your Encompass towards your workflow, but that doesn't mean that your workflow has to live that way. And so we actually spent a lot of time here at the meeting, and we had top partners here. Unfortunately, Kenzie May wasn't there. It would have been great to have them here. But they weren't able to make it. And so because obviously Kenzie May does a lot of great stuff, and I worked there obviously, so I know the company, at least knew the company really well. But we had Lender Toolkit there, and we had Ignite there, and we had some other development companies there. These are just the ones, Mace Innovations, Chris Mace was there. And what we all talked about is, how are we going to leverage the tools effectively to save time? So when you hear me out there talking about innovations and tools that are now available, not only in desktop, remember, we're getting 24.2 rolling out this Saturday, right? And hopefully you've watched at least read through the release notes, or at least been testing in your testing environment with functionality updates from the release notes, or you've watched my release notes read through, or you've read somebody else's. I don't care, as long as you're doing something, because there are updates that are happening on desktop. There are updates that are happening on web, and the functionality that you're able to use, the tools that you're able to use to get better outcomes is really what the message is. It doesn't matter where you're doing it. If you want to work exclusively in desktop and you want to leverage those tools for those best outcomes, great. If you want to explore what Encompass Web can do for you, even if it's for a partial UI, so maybe it's just your sales team, or maybe it's just your appraisal team, or maybe it's just your processing team, who knows? But it gives you the ability to make these decisions, and that's money. So when it comes time, the first thing is wasted time waiting for Encompass to actually move. And the second thing is the time, right? We all get paid, hopefully. We all get paid, and that time equals money. So the 30 minutes you're spending here today, almost 30 people that are on this is a very expensive meeting for everybody, and I want to make the most of it. So having said that, one of the things that you want to look at is how can you look at your workflow to automate those movements and work by exception. So in other words, instead of everybody having to do the same thing over and over again, how can you work through the available tools that you have now, as well as what you're getting in 24.2, and especially what's coming out in 24.3 December this year, how can you leverage those tools to create a more efficient workflow so that you can save your company money and you can keep more of what you're making? So that's the first thing. Hopefully everybody gets that. I don't know if anybody's got any special projects. So here, pop quiz time. What's one project, right? It's August. So you got 3 months to kind of put something together and get it out there. What is one thing that you're doing to update or modify or enhance your workflow to save your company money? Go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm really honestly interested to see what comes up. So Brian's focus is OB opportunities in web, because Brian, I'm assuming you're going to give your sales team more tools so they can hopefully get more sales. So you're kind of packing in the front, which is fantastic. Looking forward to hearing those results. If anybody else has any ideas, go ahead and throw them in chat and show everybody else what you're doing. All right, this is a community. So not just me talking. I know I'm the only one that ends up talking on these things, but it really is about your voice. I'm just trying to guide the conversation. Brian said we got first positive result. Brian, I'd love for you to do like a use case, and show everybody else what you're finding. because I'm telling you, it's one thing for me to blah, blah, blah about it, but you guys are actually doing the work with real borrowers, and your feedback is really what matters. All right, number two, appropriate level of third-party tech. All right, so what does this mean? This means that if you go into your input form, and by the way, input form builder is one way to see it, but another way to see it is if you go to your Encompass homepage, in the lower right-hand section of that, if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see a little section, a little widget on there, and one of those widgets is plugins. You can go ahead and click that, and you can see, you can take inventory of your plugins. I did a little video on this. Brian, I'd love to take you up on a talk for opportunities. You're the man, you're doing it. Have your people contact my people and we'll set it up. Please, like I'm being sincere, like please. So third-party tech, we know, and again, I know this because I just saw this in the partner advisory board, there are a high level of third-party plugins that are installed and not being used. And it's amazing what ICE can see on the back end. They can actually measure all this from a tool perspective. So you need to make sure as an admin, please go through your plugins, take inventory. How are you using these things? When are you using them? Why are you using them? Because if you're not using them, get them out. Get them out. Now, there is a tool that you can contact ICE for, and I'm going to put it in the post after here. But it's a tool that ICE has developed, and it actually will allow you to do an enhanced business rule analysis. I'll put the post in there, but you can actually use this ICE mortgage technology tool to actually query against the your actual rule base to get a result to see what is actually happening. So how many times have we written a field trigger and it does something unexpected? Or we've written a rule and it didn't work as we thought? All this takes time and resources away, not only from yourself, but also if something unexpected happens, it takes resources away from your company. And so it's on topic. So I'm going to bring up exactly how to open the case for ICE and what to call for it and why you'd want to do it. You can make your own choice. So appropriate levels of third-party tech. One more thing here is ICE continues to look at what every client needs as a baseline. So there are some plugins right now that are developed by third parties that ICE is going to be incorporating into base level Encompass. Some of the simple ones, I won't get into detail here, you'll hear the announcements, but it just means that you need less third-party tech. That's the idea. I know some of these things are free, but there is nothing free in technology. Technology it's called tech debt. But that means that there is an impact, whether it's to your workflow that's slower or to your speed. Cody says when it's free, you're the product. Jody, well said, right? Nothing is free, and third-party plugins, even when they're free. I mean, again, every major provider has free stuff, but it's not. It's really not from a technical debt perspective. All right, number 3. Let's talk about real cash. Let's talk about real cash. Show of hands. Who actually tracks actively in every month how many times you actually collected the correct amount of fees from your borrowers on all of your loans from an accounting perspective? Now, this is a tricky one. And what I'm saying is, did you verify throughout your workflow or after closing at some point, just from an accounting perspective, that your company actually got paid all of its fees, application fees, processing fees, whatever? And how do you line that up with your lender credits? Now, lender credits come in 3 main ways, right? You can do a lender credit for pricing. You can do a lender credit for cure because you're required to. And you can do lender credit as a sales incentive or a deal incentive. And how is that tracked? So these 2 main things I call money vaporizing. So that, the number 3 thing is money vaporizing in workflow. And I can tell you it is few and far between, and perhaps you're one of those companies where you don't actually track from an accounting perspective. If we had 100 loans closing this month and I'm supposed to get $1,000 processing fee, I should see $100,000 in my processing fee GL in my accounting team after this month's reconciled. Now, as an administrator, you might think, again, Larry, it's not my job, dude. Like, I'm just trying to administer Encompass. Like, why are you throwing accounting stuff at me? I'm throwing accounting stuff at you because I want you to level up. I want you to understand that your ability to impact your company's bottom line is extensive and it's meaningful. And so there's a couple of times I post online about people possibly, you know, they're out of work or they're looking for opportunities. And my whole thing is you need to create value for yourself within your company. And that's an important thing, not only from a purpose perspective for yourself, but also I'm telling you, if you're not doing the work, who is? And I find so many opportunities when I just ask, hey, who's watching the shop? And you might find out that person maybe isn't there anymore. Maybe they never had a person. Maybe they didn't realize that was something they should do because they started as a small company and all of a sudden, boom, they got big and nobody ever thought that they should check for it. I'm telling you, money vaporizing and workflow, I see it in project after project and client after client, something you want to keep your eye on, please. All right. How we doing? Anybody have any questions, concerns? Am I on target? Am I totally losing you? Is this totally boring? I hope not, because again, when a company works their butt off trying to get sales in, it's the money you keep that matters. Just saying. So Candace asks, I help my accounting managers in both of my last places. I'm a level removed here. And yeah, and I think there's an opportunity. In Candace's case, what I would say is make sure somebody's doing the job. That's all I care about. Is somebody watching that we're getting this paid? And how do you tell, right? Well, as an admin, you can certainly look in the reporting database. You can certainly check your workflow. That's Lynn. All right, Lynn, you better make sure the money's making it to the cash drawer, please, for your guys' sake. All right, number 4, office expenses. Classic story I had. When I roll the clock back to 2013. I'm working for Ellie Mae. American Financial Resources hires me to come on as a full-time employee. And I'm looking at what's going on. And I discover, literally, as I'm walking into the office building in Parsippany one day, I see stacks of overnight FedEx packages. And I literally go into the management and I'm like, what is that all about? And they're like, oh, those are disclosures. Now, again, this is 2013, 2014, maybe. There was no, you could still do e-disclosure back then. Like there was no need for this. And so what I discovered was that it was 100,000. I don't think I'm exaggerating, but somebody can keep me honest if Chris Kirk is on here, if you remember that. But the idea was it was high 5 numbers, if not 6, of annual expenses the company was spending on overnight, next day, early AM delivery, not only for the initial disclosures, but for the return. If you guys have never handled this kind of an account, when you print a return, it's gone, whether the client uses it or not. And so they literally were burning cash. And I brought in stamps.com. Again, this is the truth. This is how I did it. I brought in stamps.com and I had meters at everybody's desk. I had the workflow change to e-consent first, which meant I can send the disclosures and they can just go out. If the customer never went in, that's fine because we have mailbox rule. And not only did this affect the retail company, it also affected the wholesale company, which was even bigger as Laura Brandeo was running it at that time. And so the idea of where to find money in office expenses, first place is mailroom. I'm always going in the mailroom because I need to find out where that's going. Now, you don't have to go in the mailroom. You can just contact your accounting team and be like, hey, how much have we spent in overnight packages? The answer should be like extraordinarily low because the only part of your company that should be doing overnights is your executive team, like contracts or stuff, or in your post-closing if they've got to send out notes, all right, collateral docs to custodians. And so, so that's where I get into this conversation of, you know, where do you find money in office expenses? Now, naturally, there's been a lot of change over the last few years with regards to office expense. So I'm not talking about physical buildings, but I'm talking about workflow. So we used to actually have a ton of printers. That's primarily gone. We used to have a ton of overnights. We used to have a ton of faxing and all these things, and manila envelopes. All this stuff hopefully is gone in the back, like gone away from your workflow. And again, it might sound weird to you that I'm talking about this as an Encompass administrator, right? But this is a mortgage community, and I'm trying to guide the conversation into larger conversations to say, how do you make effective change for your company? And workflow is not admitted for Encompass admins. Workflow is not just running Encompass, it's running the workflow. So when do they actually send out e-consent? How do they send out e-disclosures? Do they send it out before they have e-consent or after? And all of this lines up into initial disclosures. And what do we do if we have a borrower added right before closing? How do we deal with that? All these things matter. They all add up, especially if you have a large volume. And we are going to see more volumes here. Our volumes nationally are picking up ever so slightly for some, and in a big way for many. But you want to make sure you have this lined up for your teams. All right. Last thing I'll say on office expenses is obviously everyone is different. Back in when I tried to create and run my own mortgage company, made a lot of horrible choices, which is the reason why it failed. And the biggest mistake I made was getting into heavy agreements that were multi-year agreements, even with a brand new business. It's idiotic. It's just a total dope. So learning from those mistakes is important for me, but also sharing those mistakes is important for you. So when you get into these office expenses, again, you might not be directly involved in the contract negotiations, but I will tell you right now that it's very important to stay agile in your vendor relationships, because you want to make sure that you have the ability to be in a position of power in case anything changes in your workflow or any new kind of solution comes on the market that you want to be able to take advantage of. Make sure your existing agreements don't come in way of that. And then also, of course, make sure that whatever you're doing for integrations, I'm always going to suggest native first. I'm always going to suggest leverage what you have at your hands before you go out and try to find something new, especially if it's something brand new or a brand new solution. You might be surprised at what's baked in native to Encompass. More on that later. Last thing, Lynn, this is coming right back to you. And this is going right back to everybody who is interested in making sure that your company is as fiscally responsible with your workflow as possible, which is loan level accounting. Anybody actually have loan level accounting? We've got about 30 people on here. Is anybody running true loan level accounting at their company right now? And when I say loan level accounting, I mean the services are broken down on the invoicing by the loan. So you literally can go through and determine how much of this loan cost me in expenses, that kind of a thing. Another angle of that is how long was the person, the team member, how long did they actually spend in the file? How many times did they open it? And when we talk about these things, shout out to Lender Toolkit, by the way, on this. You can go there. They've got the free tier, whatever the heck it's called. It includes a plugin called User Touches. And User Touches is a very old plugin. I used it back in 2013. Nikolai built, as far as I know, I think it was Nikolai. And it still works. It's very basic, but that's all it needs to be. And it counts how many times you go in the file and how long the person's been in there. To go right back to my first point of making sure that you understand time is money. And if I have people that are going in there and they have to open that file 40 times in that loan file's workflow, and I'm making them wait 20 seconds to open that file, do the math. And now amplify that or multiply that by everybody who has to open the file or do their work. It's these kinds of things that go into loan level accounting. So we're actually working with a project where we're doing this time study analysis and we're doing the workflow analysis because the ownership of that company is just extraordinarily focused on getting the cost to originate down to a number that nobody believes. They're already beyond that number, but they want to even get it tighter. They want to get it lower. And the way that they get there is making sure they understand every dollar that's coming out. So that gets into the conversation of the money vaporizing, right, through missing fees or cures being added inappropriately or errantly. And then also getting into the time study and saying, listen, if we do these specialty loans, it costs us 2x or 3x of our normal costs. Is that something we really want to continue? So, I don't know. But what I can tell you is that when you look at these 5 things, so, wasted time is number 1. Number 2 is the appropriate level of third-party tech. Number 3 is money vaporizing in your workflow. Number 4 is office expenses. And number 5 is loan level accounting. If you package all that together, you can actually sit back and have a discussion in a meeting room with your team and or with your executives to say, hey, I want you to make these changes. And here's what you're going to save, or this is what you're going to keep if you make these changes. That's a powerful message. And that's a message that I don't know any business leader wouldn't listen to. But without that, it's just your opinion. It's kind of like looking at a change and being suggested that you should make a change in your workflow, but you don't even know what the return on investment is going to be, or bringing in a new piece of software. You don't even know what the return on investment is going to be. So how do you certainly measure if it was a success? And that's kind of where I'll leave it here today with talking about money. Does anyone have any questions? Has anyone tried anything? Did anybody want to ask about enhanced conditions? So I needed to see if our guest showed up who wanted to ask the conditions, who said they were going to be on the phone call, and I don't see her or the group. I'm not going to call her out because I don't want it to be awkward. But so looks like that's a no. I do want to say I'll leave you with one last thought, and this was an overarching theme of our partner advisory board meeting today. So this is really, really helpful. There's been a lot of discussion over the years. Listen, for those that have been around, we had LO Connect, right? And it was announced, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. And then it was Encompass on the web. And then it was, and then it was, well, we need to figure out how we're going to move to the web. Let me set the record straight, please. There is one Encompass. And I'm saying this from my perspective because there's been a lot of misunderstandings, and I just want to use this last couple of minutes as an opportunity to clear this up. There's one Encompass, and what's important for you as a client, whether you're using desktop, which has 0 plans, not even a discussion of being deprecated. So if anybody's saying that to you, laugh at them because they got the wrong information. You also don't need to move to only exclusively using Encompass Web. What's important for you as a client and the consistent messaging from ICE is that you're leveraging the tools that you need to be successful as a customer, as a client. It's like me walking into your office and me saying, well, you need to use this thing just because. Now, if you ever hear me say, well, you need to use enhanced conditions because enhanced conditions only work on the web, that's truthful. That doesn't mean that you have to move to them. My whole thing has always been, as is ICE's, it's a value prop. So you're only going to do something when it's meaningful for you. So going back to what Brian said, Brian's team went to opportunities in web, which I've talked about. But to enable that with opportunities on web, you've got to have a PPE that works with opportunities. In this case, Optimal Blue does. And so the value prop to the sales team is, hey, you don't have to use Encompass Web, but you could use Encompass Opportunities, which, yeah, they're on the web. So it gives you the ability to have this conversation and pick and choose. One of the things that's coming out is the ability to launch Encompass Web from within desktop. And so one of the great things that we are all looking forward to is how will that work? So now we have desktop. It's kind of like when you launch an EPC vendor and it opens up that little window, that little spinner thing. That's an EPC window. So I don't know this. I'm just creating a hypothetical here. But I suppose it's going to be kind of that thing. And I'm looking forward to it because what we do want to do as a collective is make sure that everybody who's using the Encompass platform can use any tool that they want in any way that they want for the best possible outcome that they want. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that message, just to kind of set it really clear. Hopefully it makes sense to you. And the couple of things that I still encourage, if you're not doing it, I still encourage a new doc viewer. I still encourage enhanced conditions. And the reason why those are the two things is because with EPC, I can automate services, both ordering and updating and retrieving. I can automate data both out of Encompass and into Encompass. I can do automatic disclosure retrieval when I'm using, currently just using Consumer Connect. By the way, that's opening up entirely the whole document platform is opening up entirely very soon to partners. So it's going to be really awesome what's happening. And ICE's position on this is that they just want you to be able to understand that it's one Encompass. Use all the tools that you need to wherever they are to be successful. And of course, I'm always here, as are other partners, but we're here to help and make sure that you get what you need and get the support you need to be successful. And that way we all win. Candace says we're using new doc viewer and enhanced conditions and starting to develop workflow rules. Workflow Engine is the bomb, gang. Like, it's really solid, so I'd encourage you to check it out. That is my time here at the New York Stock Exchange. There's an armed patrolman walking. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm good. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'll be posting pictures up and videos for New York Stock Exchange for those that are fans. And everybody else, this has been a truly awesome couple of days. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming today. And always let us know what we can do. Update the community. Thanks. We'll see you now. Bye-bye.